Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Sunday, May 17th, 2020, but today we're going to be talking about May 17th, 2019. So just to mix things up a little bit, today I'm going to be discussing the 2020 presidential election 1 year ago today. So I'm pretty much going to maybe do these maybe once a month where I pretty much analyze the race as it was 1 year ago. And I give you guys a general idea of what we were discussing a year ago. I was making YouTube videos in May of 2019. I have been since June of 2017. So generally around that time period, we had not known who the clear nominee was going to be. Joe Biden had just announced his campaign, though, and it was pretty notable that he was at a very large lead nationwide. He pretty much trounced all of the rest of the candidates. And let's just go ahead and take a look at the Democratic primary polling data back then. So we don't have a lot of general election data from May. They were not doing a lot of general election polls, mainly because, and I honestly understand it, mainly because there was no clear Democratic nominee. They did do, polls where they considered a number of candidates, but it was definitely not as much as we're seeing it now. Pretty much we've seen them routinely, if not daily, for the general election. Back in May of 2019, we were seeing something sort of similar to the just the Democratic primary data, which was pretty much exactly what I was covering about a year ago. So let's look at the Democratic primary data and see if it matches up with what we see today. So again, like I said, Joe Biden was at his largest lead the entire campaign season until it became a two-way race between him and Senator Sanders. So on May 17th, 2019, Joe Biden led pretty much by over 20% over Bernie Sanders. You know, when you look at this lead, you would think that at this point, nobody would really be thinking otherwise, that Joe Biden wouldn't be the nominee. When you look at the overall numbers, well, Elizabeth Warren is in third place, Kamala Harris is in fourth place, Pete Buttigieg is in fifth, and Beto O'Rourke is in sixth. I'm sorry, I read the wrong number. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. I do apologize for that. I was trying to read I was like, why is Biden all the way at the bottom if he's leading? And I was like, oh, that's the margin number. So Biden led by 22.7%, and then it just made me say random numbers. So, Beto O'Rourke was still a top candidate at this point. Andrew Yang had not necessarily broken through that 1% mark yet. The rest of the candidates pretty much stayed irrelevant, to be completely honest. Tulsi Gabbard, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar. I mean, these people really never saw any type of popularity except for Klobuchar, who last minute came to popularity because of her New Hampshire performance, but then again dropped out immediately after South Carolina. But it is pretty interesting that the time period showed a clear characterization that the race was going to end up being a two-way race between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. Though for a while, we did think that Senator Kamala Harris was going to be the possible presidential nominee. She skyrocketed to second place after the first Democratic presidential debate. Joe Biden dropped from 32%, and Kamala Harris went up to 15%. But about 1 year ago, Senator Harris was around fourth place. No one really expected her to drop out as quickly as she did, but when she did drop out, it made the race a lot easier for a number of primary voters. If you look, comparing it from now to then, Joe Biden had a pretty strong lead. Based off the margin back then, he pretty much only improved by around 8%. That's not saying that that's by no means a huge improvement, but he was riding at a high point. I mean, it is a huge improvement. It's just the fact that it has moved up to a two-way race. And, the Democratic primary ended with Joe Biden at 61% and Bernie Sanders at 32%. Nowhere near what it was in 2016. Joe Biden consistently outperformed Hillary Clinton after the South Carolina primary. So when you look at this data, I think it's just as very interesting. I actually have a Quinnipiac University poll that is directly from May 2019. It was released on May 21st just because they got all the data compiled, but it was given during this time period. So I do want to go through some of the important numbers. So right now they have some favorability ratings. They had them for the president up here, and they gave President Trump a 57% disapproval rating and a 38% approval rating. That's down from the Quinnipiac poll in May 2nd, 2019, so it definitely wasn't good. For Joe Biden, he had a 49% approval rating and a 39% disapproval rating. And he's the only presidential contender, Democratic or Republican candidate, with a clear positive score. Other Democrats are negative or mixed. So Bernie Sanders was actually disapproved of 48% to 41%, so negative net 7. One thing that I do want to dispel is the fact that people discuss Bernie Sanders as the most popular politician in the country. That is not correct. He is the most popular senator in terms of polling done within their home state, which means that my Maryland Senator Ben Cardin may not be approved of as much by Maryland residents as Bernie Sanders is approved of by Vermont residents. The polls taken for most popular senator are not nationwide polls. It's pretty much the 3 electoral votes with the small population in Vermont that's approving of Bernie Sanders, not the nationwide numbers. So on an overall average nationwide, Bernie Sanders actually has a net negative. Not just this Quinnipiac poll from 1 year ago, but to this day, Bernie Sanders isn't necessarily approved of. And even in certain approval polls, it's a narrow +2, +3%. Keep in mind, Trump supporters aren't approving of Bernie Sanders. They aren't approving of any Democrat. The only Democrat that consistently outperforms in terms of favorability rating over Donald Trump, believe it or not, is Joe Biden. And that's just because, there's a number of factors that contribute to that. But Joe Biden has been a much stronger candidate amongst favorability ratings compared to what people might expect. Again, I do have to reiterate this. Social media is not a voting platform. Just because you may see more people, young people, supporting a certain candidate does not mean they are the favorite to win the race. Old voters do exist. Middle-aged voters do exist. And generally, they aren't agreeing with a lot of people that are youth and on the internet discussing their political opinions. So just wanted to get that out of the air just because of the fact that Joe Biden is still the most popular Democratic presidential candidate nationwide. That's just a fact. Bernie Sanders, negative net 7. Elizabeth Warren, net 9. Net 3, negative 3 for Senator Harris. And then the rest of these, pretty much it's either favorable or unfavorable or do not know. I'm not really going to go into, really shouldn't have even discussed Senator Harris's because most of these, that's why it's only adding up to 52% because 48% have not heard of Beto O'Rourke. Or, the rest of the voters have not heard of Cory Booker. So really should not be discussing. That's really weird. 8 to 45% for Bill de Blasio. Wow. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at just some of the other data that we see. So they do tend to focus on the Democratic presidential primary. We weren't really focusing on the general election at this point. It was pretty much who was going to be the nominee. So amongst moderate and conservative voters, Joe Biden led 48% to 10% over Senator Sanders. Amongst, I guess you could say a middle, 26% for Biden and 22% for Sanders. And then very liberal is 19% for Biden, 22% for Bernie Sanders. But Elizabeth Warren actually took this one away at 30%. So Elizabeth Warren was a very significant voting bloc that took away from Bernie Sanders back in 2019. That's just makes sense. Elizabeth Warren wasn't doing too well in terms of nationwide polling, but she did offer an alternative to Bernie Sanders for a number of these voters. But even totaled up, it did not make up the deficit that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party had. Joe Biden and the other centrist Democrats definitely did take away as a whole at the overall majority. Amongst men, Joe Biden leads, and especially amongst women as well. Not especially in the Democratic primary, but more so on the general election. Amongst white voters, Joe Biden led as well, but Elizabeth Warren actually beat Bernie Sanders, which I think is very interesting. And amongst non-white voters, it was pretty much a two-way race between Biden and Sanders, with Biden taking it away by 18%. I think this is a second place question. Let me see. I think this is more demographics. Yeah, sorry. So we're not going to really brush too much into this. It's a tie between Sanders and Biden in terms of young voters, which I think is really interesting. Then you show 50 plus. Like I said, young voters, number one, don't vote. Number two, they aren't too big of the population that they're going to have as big of an impact as ages 50 plus. But it was 46 to 8 in terms of ages 50 plus, and then 18 to 48, it was a tie. So that definitely should tell you who's supporting who. In terms of voters that are economically disadvantaged, Biden wins all of the demographics in terms of economic status. Let's see. This is just attention to presidential campaign. Yeah, we're not going to go ahead and look at that. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and see if there's a general election poll, because I think that would be really interesting. All right, right here. How many people would consider voting for President Trump for the 2020 presidential election? So it looks like 54% are already saying no. So that's an overall negative net 6 if the rest of them agreed to vote for President Trump. But it totals up to around 43, with 3% don't know or no answer. Pretty much Donald Trump was being trounced by a generic Democrat in this scenario by 11% nationwide. These are pretty much just asking questions. as to whether or not they would vote for him. Here are the Joe Biden favorability ratings. Again, I mean, look at the approval rating of President Trump amongst Democrats. Let's see if it's down here. 2%. Approval rating for Joe Biden amongst Republicans, 15%. So there's a reason why Joe Biden does outperform Donald Trump in terms of polling data. So about a year ago, Joe Biden was on track to become the Democratic nominee. People already knew who he was. 20% of the Democrats have an unfavorability rating of Bernie Sanders and 49% of independents. So keep that in mind as well. But these are just the rest of the Democratic candidates. So pretty much on a nationwide level, Donald Trump was already at a deficit in terms of the general election. For the Democratic primary, again, Joe Biden was the clear leader and the person expected to win the primary during this time period. He had a 22.4% lead nationwide and 22.7% actually. And it looked like he was going to win without a doubt. So not much has actually changed since now and then. Donald Trump has improved his numbers. What was that? Donald Trump has improved his numbers, but it just doesn't seem enough in order to win the presidency at this point. Donald Trump is still at a deficit in a number of states that probably can't be beaten for right now until something happens in favor of his campaign. His approval rating is dwindling because of the coronavirus pandemic. And, a year ago, obviously no one was expecting this. I was in AP Gov class talking about the presidential election a year ago, talking about the Democratic primary. Nobody knew about any of this, but it's going to take a negative impact on President Trump's campaign without a doubt. So again, not much really has changed from a year ago. I thought there would be way more interesting things coming out of this, but I guess not. I guess things really don't change in American politics, but that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all tomorrow.